Hi folks, Beth in here. I'm going to do a little more reading fairy magic for you. Fairy magic that involves reading a book, specifically a fairy tale book, but you can do it with any book really. Of course, magic works better the more you add it together, and in this case, we start with a fairy tale book and read it with a fairy magic mindset, and we get more magic out of it. So I'll just pick up where I left off the other day. Soon after midday, I arrived at a bare rocky hill, of no great size but very steep, and having no trees, scarcely even a bush, upon it, entirely exposed to the heat of the sun. Over this my way seemed to lie, and I immediately began to ascend. On reaching the top, hot and weary, I looked around me, and saw that the forest still stretched as far as sight could reach on every side of me. I observed that the trees, in the direction in which I was about to descend, did not come so near the foot of the hill as on the other side, and was especially regretting the unexpected postponement of shelter, because this side of the hill seemed more difficult to descend than the other had been to climb, when my eye caught the appearance of a natural path, winding down through the broken rocks and along the course of a tiny stream, which I hoped would lead me more easily to the foot of the hill. Lead me more easily to the foot. I tried it and found the descent not at all laborious. Nevertheless, when I reached the bottom, I was very tired and exhausted with the heat. But just when the path seemed to end, rose a great rock, quite overgrown with shrubs and creeping plants, some of them full and splendid blossom, these almost concealed an opening in the rock, into which the path appeared to lead. I entered, thirsting for the shade which it promised. What was my delight to find a rocky cell, and all the angles rounded away with rich moss, and every ledge and projection crowded with lovely ferns, the variety of whose forms and groupings and shades wrought in me like a poem, for such a harmony could not exist except they all consented to some one end. A little well of the clearest water filled a mossy hollow in one corner. I drank, and I felt as if I knew what the elixir of life must be, then threw myself on the mossy mound that lay like a couch along the inner end. Here I lay in a delicious reverie for some time, during which all lovely forms and colors and sounds seemed to use my brain as a common hall, where they could come and go, unbidden and unexcused. I had never imagined that such capacity for simple happiness lay in me, as I was now awakened by this assembly of forms and spiritual sensations, which yet were far too vague to admit of being translated into any shape common to my own and another mind. I had lain for an hour, I should suppose, though it may have been far longer, when the harmonious tumult in my mind having somewhat relaxed, I became aware that my eyes were fixed on a strange, time-worn bas-relief of the rock opposite to me. This, after some pondering, I concluded to represent Pygmalion, as he awaited the quickening of his statue. The sculptor sat more rigid than the figure to which his eyes were turned. That seemed about to step from its pedestal and embrace the man, who waited rather than expected. A lovely story, I said to myself. This cave now, with the bushes cut away from the entrance to let the light in, might be such a place as he would choose, withdrawn from the notice of man, to set up his block in marble, mould into a visible body the thought already clothed with form in the unseen hall of the sculptor's brain. And indeed, if I mistake not, I said, starting up, as a sudden ray of light arrived at that moment through the crevice in the roof, and lighted up a small portion of the rock, bare of vegetation, that this very rock is marble, white enough and delicate enough for any statue, even if destined to become an ideal woman in the arms of the sculptor. So if I didn't mention before, Phantastes by George MacDonald. And Phantastes by George MacDonald. It's a great book. I've never read it before. Getting this far into it, it just keeps getting better. Hopefully you can find a great book too, or find this one, and read along and enjoy reading magic yourself as well. Thanks for sharing in mine.